Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll talk about the latest Xbox news for the week of June 20th, 2024, including Capcom angers Xbox fans with lack of support for an anticipated upcoming game, Todd Howard talks Starfield and Fallout with a prominent gaming YouTuber, Xbox games continue to sell incredibly well on PlayStation, and more. On this week in Xbox history, in the year 2001, 23 years ago, Sonic Adventure 2 was released for the Sega Dreamcast in the US. Now, you might be saying, Jesse, you said this week in Xbox history, not this week in Sega history. The Dreamcast isn't an Xbox. Fuck you. On a technicality, I consider Dreamcast to basically be the precursor to the Xbox, kind of in the way that like The Hobbit, is the first part of the Lord of the Rings story, but, it's not part of the trilogy. Shut up. Dreamcast is basically, it's the tadpole that later became the green slimy frog that was the Xbox. I don't know how to put it. Listen, man, Sonic's awesome. The Sega Dreamcast was awesome. There's a lot of shared history. We're going to talk about Sonic Adventure 2 this week. Listen, Sonic Adventure 2 is a very important game because if you're a Sonic fan, if you're a real Sonic fan, not a 7-year-old who's only played Sonic Frontiers. No, but Sonic fans know. Sonic Adventure 2, simultaneously one of the best Sonic games ever made and one of the most overrated Sonic games of all time, because Sonic Adventure 2 is a great game with some great innovations in the franchise, hasn't aged incredibly well, still fun to go back to, incredibly nostalgic, iconic, and not to mention, of course, the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog, which I know a lot of people care about, and most importantly, the badass music from Crush 40. I mean, it's an iconic game. It's a very important game. City Escape, one of the most iconic first levels of a video game. If we're doing like top 20 most iconic first levels of a video game, I feel like City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2 it's on that list. I don't know that's top 5 or anything, but it's on that list. Everyone, whether you played old Sonic games or not, you know fucking Sonic falling down streets of San Francisco on a surfboard for a snowboard for some reason, and the fucking bass line coming in with the City Escape starting, and it's a good time. So shout out to Sonic Adventure 2. We love you. Is Sonic Adventure 1 technically better? I don't know. Not trying to stir the pot here, but these games are available on Xbox, so yep. God, I love you, Sonic. Anyway, guys, welcome to Xbox On, episode 264. Splodge6769 writes in and says, I fuck with this. Or he says, I FW this. So I assume, I had to literally look this up. This is how bad I am at internet talk. I saw FW, I'm like, I know that means something. So I looked it up, it said fuck with. I'm like, oh, I've heard people say I fuck with this, so that makes sense. I FW this. But I did definitely spend like 3 minutes staring at my phone going, I French wine this. I frown with this. I don't know. I just like thinking about what this could mean. It wasn't even that creative. It was literally like, I forgot witnesses this. It was tough, but I fuck with this. Thank you, Splodge, for writing in. Thank you for fucking with my show. Now, don't fuck with my show in the context of like, I'm gonna hack in your computer and change your voice to sound like a chipmunk for the next 3 episodes. I don't need that kind of interference, but if you want to fuck with this in the sense of you are quote-unquote vibing with it, then appreciate you very much. Have a wonderful week, and hope you enjoy the podcast, you guys. Another week of Xbox On. The first week after a very busy week of tons and tons of Xbox news, the showcase, Ubisoft Forward, Summer Game Fest, all the announcements before and after and in between. It was so much going on. And then this is that inevitable drop off from all the high. Everyone's calmed down. We got new Gears games to look forward to. We got new hardware to dream about, and all these kinds of things that were announced. And, now it's time to settle in and kind of go through all the announcements and try and make further sense of it. Usually this week is full of trickle down like follow-up stories, like that game that was announced last week. Actually, the trailer was an engine, you fucking idiot. So if you didn't think the graphics were good, you're dumb, because the graphics are really good. Like those kinds of stories. So we got some of that this week. We got some other things to talk about, but yeah, definitely a little bit of a lighter news week, especially when you compare it to that showcase we just had the other week. But still a lot to talk about here, and I'm excited to just sit down and be with all you guys for another week of Xbox On. Speaking of notable game releases, God, what a smooth transition, guys! We got a couple notable games coming out to Xbox this week. I just want to hit your ears with. So let me get you with this one. Still Wakes the Deep is available as of the time you're listening to this. It's already available on Game Pass. It is a day one Game Pass game, so it's a brand new game from developer The Chinese Room. You may know these guys from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which is a pretty popular PC, PS4 walking sim type exploration, interactive, narrative driven 3-hour type game. One of those types of experiences. I really liked that game a lot, and I'm kind of interested in this game. It does look like an evolution of that kind of game, but it does put me off a little bit, because I think like the synopsis, the setting, you're like, I don't know if it's military or like some like engineer or something, but you're on some kind of like oil rig / boating rig system out in the ocean, and it's stormy and it's dark, and it's got a little bit of like a horror creepy slant to it, and that's not really turns me off of it. It's just the being out in the ocean and like the notion of like drowning and whales and deep sea creatures and all. It puts me off. That stuff is generally terrifying to me, and I don't enjoy it. So the setting, a little off-putting, but I'm sure the game is interesting. That's a terrible way to sell you on the game. So I've just done. I shouldn't be paid for promoting games on this podcast. I should be invoiced for talking about games in a way that makes them so uninteresting that fewer people actually check out these games. So I'm sorry, The Chinese Room. I should probably pay you guys handsomely for my words. Not that it's slander. It's just really bad advertising, guys. It's not the only game coming out this week that I think some of you might want to hear about, because aside from day one Game Pass releases, we have a paid expansion DLC type content that I think is going to get a lot of you guys hot and bothered, because it's basically a follow-up to the hottest game in the past few years. I'm talking about Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. I hate that name, but obviously this is an incredibly notable game. Xbox One, PC, Series S and X, of course. This game comes out on Friday. It is technically just an expansion, but from what I understand, it is pretty sizable. So if you're looking for a lot more Elden Ring, a great way to expand that experience, this is going to be a great download for you. I think it's like $40 or $50 DLC, but again, it's a pretty sizable experience. It's roughly the, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's roughly proper video game amount of content. So for that price point, it's supposedly pretty good. This is already getting wonderful reviews, just like the base game itself did. So obviously this is something you're probably going to want to check out if you enjoyed Elden Ring at all a few years ago when it came out, which I assume many people listening to this podcast probably really loved Elden Ring. So it's an exciting moment for all you guys. Definitely want to check this one out. Side note thing I've heard about these Souls-like games is that these From Software Souls games is that the DLC is usually a lot more challenging than the base game itself. So if you haven't played Elden Ring since it came out a few years ago and you're a little rusty, you might get your butt handed to you playing this DLC. So just be warned, you might want to season yourself up, jump back in, train your way back to a point where you can take on this new content. But of course, exciting nonetheless. All right, that's it for our notable game releases of the week. I think that's going to take us straight on into our mildly amusing stories. This is the appetizer section. So, who ordered the cheese sticks with the mozzarella cheese sticks with marinara sauce? This is a TGI Fridays, of course. That's the analogy we're going with. Oh, you did? Okay, well, let me serve that to you hot and fresh, just like this news we're getting about Gears of War E-Day. Could it be releasing as early as 2025? All right, just let me preface by saying this because I'm not some kind of like rage bait motherfucker. No, I don't think this game has a prayer of a chance of coming out next year. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But this is a report that's getting picked up by enough notable sources. I feel like we got to touch on it. So, Gears of War E-Day. This is VGC's write-up of the matter from Reddit and The Verge. Gears of War E-Day could be released next year, it has been claimed. According to The Verge's sources, paywalled via Reddit, a few months ago, Microsoft was targeting a 2025 launch window for the newly announced game. It's unclear if that remains the case, but Microsoft didn't announce a launch window for the title when they revealed it during the showcase last week. The next mainline entry in the Gears of War game is an original story that depicts the Locust invasion of Emergence Day. It follows a younger version of the series' original protagonists, Marcus Phoenix and Dom Santiago, as they battle against the invading forces. Now, I heard people saying when this was initially announced and revealed at the showcase, oh, wouldn't that be a sick 2026 game? And my immediate reaction was, no, man, this game is early in development. Like, I mean, you think about, like, the initiative really, they finished Gears of War 5 in 2019. That came out in September 2019. And then they put out Gears Tactics the following summer, which was not really like was it the following summer or was that the year after? I don't know, like 2020 or 2021, they put out Gears Tactics, but that was not something they solely developed. That was something they kind of helped oversee as the arbiters of the Gears IP. So that wasn't really like something they fully put all their development efforts into. And then we got that Hivebusters DLC expansion for Gears 5, which released alongside the Series X in December 2020. So, like really since then, it's been about 4 years or so of them not having really much of anything to show for. So in theory, it's like, yeah, they have another Gears of War game that will be ready in 2025. It's like, I don't see why not. That makes sense. But we know the behind-the-scenes rumors and rumblings were that they were going to work on a Gears of War 6, an immediate follow-up to Gears 5, but then they weren't like really feeling it. And, and Rod Ferguson, who was leading the initiative, or the coalition rather, left the coalition to go on and work at Blizzard. And so they were kind of like in between leaders and stuff like that. And there was a time period where, as the reports say, we got a lot of this from like Windows Central and other reliable sources, that the coalition was exploring, trying to build a new IP, taking a little break from Gears and maybe working on an all new original IP for a while. And then the word about a year and a half ago was, hey, that didn't bear fruit. They kind of abandoned that avenue, and now they're back working on the next Gears game. So we've known for over a year at this point that the MO over the coalition has been, we're getting back to Gears, and I think most of us assumed that meant, all right, let's go make that Gears 6 now. And that's what I assumed, of course, up until last week when we found out about Gears E-Day with that announcement, which caught everyone by surprise. It was a very fun, pleasant surprise. But I don't know, I guess when this was announced, I just kind of immediately assumed that meant, okay, so they kind of abandoned this project to work on this new IP, probably like, I don't know, 18 months ago or something. So whatever they're doing with this Gears of War game, it's been in some kind of like I don't know, like just a drafting idea stage / early pre-production stage for the past like 8 to 10 months or something. Like, so they're probably pretty early into the development of this game. And then of course we only got a cinematic trailer. I know it's running in engine, but we didn't see gameplay, which suggests that the game is earlier in development than ready to be released in a year. So I don't know. I thought there was enough of an understanding behind like what we know was going on behind the scenes and the way games are developed today, that it just made sense that this game was probably a ways off, like at the earliest 2027, probably more realistically even 2028. And that was part of my frustration about like, why would you not just do Gears 6 first? Because by the time we finally get a conclusion to the events of Gears 5, I mean, Gears 5 will probably be like a 13-year-old game at that point. It's going to be insane. But I don't know, maybe they had like one team working on exploring this new IP and a second team working on like Gears of War related stuff, and their project evolved into this, and now they got all hands on deck making this game. And so there's already a lot of groundwork cleared with this, and this project's a lot further along in development than maybe a lot of us had anticipated. I don't know, anything's possible, but I truly don't believe for a fucking second that this game is coming out in 2025. Now, is it possible it comes out in 2026? Yeah, I guess so. I think that'd be a really pleasant surprise. That would be actually a really great get for Xbox, because I think regardless of whether this game comes out in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I think the time from whenever this game comes out, and when you look at that gap from the last time we got a Gears or a Halo game, it'll have been way too long for the Xbox's lineup and portfolio for there to have been this much space between like a notable Gears of War or Halo type game. Because, I mean, I know it used to be the butt of the joke is Xbox is just Forza, Gears, Halo, but like these brands are really important to the Xbox core. I mean, it's been well established at this point, with Xbox being a brand that's over 20 years old at this point. that Xbox doesn't treat their big IP the way Sony does, where it's like, let's make a couple games. Okay, we're satisfied with this. Okay, let's never come back to this and go move on to something new, which I think is something really admirable how Sony does that with a lot of their IP. But Microsoft has a very Nintendo approach to their most fundamental IP. Their Gears of War and Halo are very much like Zelda and Mario for Xbox. And so, I don't know, it's like, wouldn't it be kind of weird if we just went 5, 6, 7 years without a single Mario or Zelda game? Like, even if it's not the next Mario Galaxy or the next Zelda Breath of the Wild style game, you expect to at least see a fucking Mario Party. You expect Mario to go do some kind of side adventure with Luigi or Donkey Kong, explore the fucking rhythm-based games or some sports style or something. You expect Master Chief to go do something in the background, much like how Link is going to be handing off the next adventure to Princess Zelda, as we just learned about at Nintendo Direct the other day. So, like, you always expect something to be in play. But, for Xbox, it's like Gears 5 happened in 2019, then Halo Infinite in 2021, and then it's just like this long, drawn-out gap of nothing until, presumably, Gears E-Day in 2025, 2026. And then who knows when the fuck we get another Halo game. Hopefully by the time Gears E-Day is out, we've at least gotten the announcement of the next Halo game. I mean, and it's not to say Xbox doesn't have games in the meantime. Thankfully, it's a different time and place for Xbox, and we got plenty of other games to look forward to. But I don't know. There's just something so, I don't know, antithetical to the whole Xbox experience if there's that much time passed and no Halo or Gears of War to show for it. I don't know. I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like something that was in vogue or in style for a long time and then stuck around way too long and kind of became like outdated. And it's like, ew, who goes to these anymore? And then kind of stuck around for so long that it kind of became like retro and cool again and became in vogue again in a more permanent sense. I'm trying to think of like something that kind of fits that bill. Like, I don't know, like what's an example? Like, I don't know, some Hot Topic where it was like this cool store for like alternative kids, and then it stuck around and I was like, what the fuck is this store for a while? And then it stuck around so much that it became like nostalgic, and now it's like a pop culture like alternative kids store, and it kind of has more of a permanent feeling. I don't know if that's a good comparison, or maybe I don't know. I'm sure there's much better ones. I'm just too stupid to think of them. But it's kind of like that, where it's like there was a time in the early days where it was like another Gears, hell yeah, another Halo, hell yeah. And then after a while, by the time we got to like the Xbox One era, it was like, all right, man, you guys got anything other than Gears and Halo? I know that's how a lot of people felt about Xbox. Not myself, but I know a lot of people felt that way. And then they just stuck with it for so long that now it's kind of like we're at a time where Xbox is so storied and old that it's like, hey, where's my next Halo? Where's my next Gears of War, man? It's been a minute. So, I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of expected at this point that there's always going to be something to do with one of those series lying around somewhere. And I don't know. I'm not trying to say that people should be forced to always work on these games, but I don't know, whether it's the initiative, whether it's the coalition, I keep saying the initiative, whether it's the coalition with Gears, whether it's the 343 with Halo, or whether they're talking about Marcus Phoenix or the game's about Master Chief or not. It's like, I don't know, shouldn't someone always be working on something somewhere in the universe of Gears of War or Halo? I mean, for God's sake, Disney gets this. I mean, they can't go 14 fucking days without putting out another Star Wars TV show, no matter how many times people tell them this shit sucks, stop making it. So, come on, Xbox. Do the same with your sci-fi franchises, please. All right, I don't even really know where we're getting at this point. But, hey, if I'm wrong and this game is somehow ready to launch in 12 to 16 months or something like that, then fuck, I'll be so glad to be wrong. That will be so awesome to have a brand new Gears of War game that's set in a time and place in the lore where we're all so familiar and nostalgic for. I think that'll be so badass. Like, bring it on. Just trying to be realistic here. I don't think we should look forward to that anytime too soon. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of In Exile, damn, I'm just killing it with these transitions today. VGC relays that developers of Clockwork Revolution have seemingly poked fun at speculation surrounding the game's release date. Last week, a listing on IMDb suggested the game could release next year in 2025. Wow, was this deja vu? This was according to a listing reportedly posted by a voice actor for several upcoming titles that seems to feature release dates alongside codenames of games. While the legitimacy of the listing was never confirmed, In Exile, the developer behind the game, has taken to Twitter to make fun of the listing, because they are a funny Twitter account. They said, a meme featuring stills from the Netflix series Umbrella Academy, claims that whoever made the original post was making up a release date for their IMDb. Announced last year, the Xbox Game Studios team said that the game is a time-bending steampunk first-person RPG, and it's in development, of course, from In Exile, our boys behind Wasteland 3, those fucking geniuses. The game is being led by director Chad Moore and principal designer Jason Anderson, both of whom worked on the seminal steampunk RPG Arcanum. So, no familiarity with Arcanum at all, but I love In Exile. I have been made a true believer and fan of this team, and I think Clockwork Revolution looks phenomenal. So I have full faith that whatever the fuck they're working on is going to be beautiful, amazing, and something I want to play. But this is, I guess, just kind of to say, if you're seeing word poking around of a 2025 release date, this is probably nonsense. It reminds me of, man, when did Kingdom Hearts 3 finally come out? It came out in like early 2018, I want to say, like February, March of 2018. And I remember this being a news story because I remember listening to like my IGN podcast that I used to always listen to, probably in 2014. I remember there being a news story where the voice actor that does Goofy, like Disney's like Goofy voice actor, who also does the voice of Goofy for the Kingdom Hearts games, was quoted online somewhere in some interview at some like fan convention or something, saying, "Oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3. I finished all my voice lines for that game like a year ago. That game should be out in like the next year or something, if I'm not mistaken." And that was like in 2014. And famously, that game didn't come out for like another 4 years. So I that's just one of those random news stories that just always stuck with me for some stupid reason. And this kind of reminds me of that energy where it's like, you can't really, a lot of VO work and stuff like that gets done pretty early in development, and then you build narrative, and you build the game around having all that content. So do they have voice actors who've recorded lines and stuff? Probably. Do those guys have any concept of when this game's actually coming out? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you're a voice actor who does a lot of work for like television and film, maybe you're more accustomed to doing your acting and then having the product launch 8 months later, because that's how other media works, but not video games, baby. If you're recording voice lines, you might be dead by the time that game comes out. Who knows, with the way games get overdeveloped and overpolished and delayed into oblivion. I mean, who fucking knows when a game's coming out based on when a voice actor recorded some lines. So if you see this floating around, unfortunately, it's probably just much to do about nothing, but boy, it would be nice if Clockwork Revolution was coming out as soon as 2025. But patience is will win out in the end. We got to remain patient with this one, because like I said, I'm a huge lover and believer now of In Exile, and I don't think these guys are going to fuck this thing up. So take your time, do what you got to do. I will be here to consume this shit as soon as it is out. So love you guys. All right, now let's wrap up our opening news stories with a little bit of controversy. So Nintendo just had a Nintendo Direct. As of the time of recording this, it was on yesterday, Tuesday. Really good Nintendo Direct. Mostly has absolutely nothing to do with Xbox, but I do want to just give a little side shout out to Metroid Prime 4. Fuck yes, finally. I cannot wait to play a game. Anyway, but this is not about Nintendo. At the Nintendo Direct, Capcom announced a new Marvel vs. Capcom collection. So let me just read from VGC, and then we'll get into the controversy. Marvel vs. Capcom fans have reacted angrily to news of the newly announced Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection and how it won't be coming to Xbox. The collection, which was announced on Tuesday during the Nintendo Direct, will be released on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC, but notably not on Xbox consoles. Capcom has yet to explain why Xbox players won't be getting the game, but fans took to social media to voice their displeasure with the phrase "no Xbox" trending on social media in response to this, according to IGN. Another Capcom collection, funny enough, featuring 2 Ace Attorney investigation games, was also announced at the same Nintendo Direct, and this collection will be coming to Xbox, but no explanation as for why Marvel vs. Capcom won't. Now, VGC asked Capcom why the collection isn't currently coming to Xbox, but Capcom has yet to respond as of the time of the writing. However, Paul Tassi of Forbes.com did some reporting on this story as well, and he had some speculation, which we'll read from now, might point to what's going on here. Now it says, quote, "No one seems to know with 100% certainty why the game isn't coming to Xbox, but it's certainly a bad look for both Capcom and Xbox. Capcom, apparently, as they don't want to do some of the extra work to make a separate deal for Xbox, blah, 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 and Xbox because they weren't able to convince Capcom to do so, that being the reason why they both look bad. Now, here's the interesting part. He says, there's a possibly confirmed theory that the reason behind this is because Capcom's MT framework engine no longer works on the Xbox One platform, explaining other games that have skipped the console, but still, the point stands that Capcom doesn't think Xbox is worth the work to correct that. All right. The collection includes X-Men Children of Adam, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2, and The Punisher. So it's a lot of content, a really great collection, and it's not coming to Xbox. And that was kind of like a what the fuck moment. I remember seeing the trailer myself and being like, wait, what? It's not coming to Xbox? What? I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what this was. My initial thought was like, is it possible that Sony has some clause with Marvel when they signed to get those Spider-Man games on PlayStation that like Spider-Man as a character cannot appear on Xbox platforms or something, as like some competition thing. But then I remembered, well, Marvel Midnight Suns came out, what was that, like a year and a half ago? And that game absolutely has Spider-Man in it. So that can't be the reason. And I just really couldn't figure this out. So maybe it is this idea that their engine that the game is built on no longer is compatible with Xbox One, but it's like, I don't mean to oversimplify something I clearly know nothing about, but like how hard would that really be to get that fixed, to get that running on Xbox One? Because we've had a handful of other Marvel vs. Capcom games on Xbox before, including the Xbox One. So like, I don't know that excuse, maybe that is the real reason, but you're using it as an excuse, and I don't know if that really is justified or holds any water. I mean, at the end of the day, you're the owner of the game. You can do whatever the fuck you want, Capcom. If you choose not to put in the legwork to get this game on Xbox, then yeah, I mean, it's your right to do that, but like, dumb. You are stupid. You are dumb. That is a stupid and dumb thing to do. I don't know, man. It's leaving a lot of things on the table. Like, I know it's like PlayStation has a way larger install base and all these things, but like, Xbox isn't nothing. I mean, between the last generation and current generation of Xbox, you got over 60 million people you can sell games to. That's not nothing. That's a lot of people out there. So like, I don't know. Apparently engagement is still pretty high on the Xbox One, PS4 generation of consoles, and a lot, like millions and millions of people are still buying and playing games on those platforms. So like, I don't see why you would just give that up. Or at the very least, it's like, okay, does the framework work on Xbox Series? Can you get this game on Xbox Series? Or like, what's the deal? Like, what's the excuse? I don't get that. This is really stupid. And hopefully this is something where Xbox can take this seriously and go to Capcom and say, hey, we can't let this happen. What do we need to do to make sure that, one, we get this game on Xbox, and two, this doesn't happen again? Because too many instances in recent history now where Xbox just isn't getting games on time, like that new Wukong game or whatever that's coming out, where it's coming to PlayStation PC and then Xbox at a later date. Or like, of course, when Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't coming to Xbox, and then did come to Xbox and was coming later, and then it just came out when it came out, and things like that. It's not a good look for Xbox. And we just got this support back from Square Enix after years of them arbitrarily just like not really paying attention to Xbox. Now they just recommitted to supporting Xbox, and then right as that happens, it's like now Capcom's kind of wavering a little bit. So it's like, Xbox, you need the Japanese support. You need the support of all these popular guys. And also, and this is the funny thing I noted here, this game is a fighting game, it is a Japanese game, and it is a Spider-Man game. So this is like everything that Xbox usually gets snubbed on rolled into one product, where new Spider-Man game comes out, it's a PlayStation game. New fighting game comes out, the Xbox community is always complaining about, oh man, the new Street Fighter or whatever, oh, that one only came to PlayStation, or like, oh man, Xbox needs to go back and re-support Killer Instinct, and like, come on, we need more fighting games on Xbox. We need some more support for that. And then Japanese games, of course, we need more Japanese support on Xbox. Microsoft needs to do more to get Japanese developers to support the Xbox. We need to grow the Xbox brand in Japan. So this is like all of these things like rolled into one dilemma, into one super spectacular game that Xbox is not getting. So I just think that's there's something like poetic about that, almost the way that looks. But yeah, it's not a good look. And Xbox has got to figure this out. You got to knock on Capcom's door and say, hey man, what gives? We've been good partners for a long time. What do we got to do to make sure this stops happening? Because it just seems like more and more these days it's becoming more of a common occurrence where Xbox just isn't getting the support. And I want to put a pin in this conversation because we're going to get back into this later in the comments, because someone wrote in with a subject that kind of touches on this topic as well, and we can pick it back up then. But I just want to plant that seed. Like, this is a weird occurrence that we're seeing a lot these days, and I hope it goes away, because this could only be worse news for Xbox as time goes on, as more and more games just don't take the Xbox platform seriously as a place to be, especially day one, because that's how a lot of players are going to decide which platform they want, is which one has the games I want. It's one thing when Sony has this exclusive, Xbox has this exclusive. It's another thing when the multi-platform games just aren't coming to Xbox, and without any real reason as to why. All right, guys, that's going to do it for all of our opening news stories. Let's take a quick break, slow it down, talk about the games I've been playing and all that, and then we'll get into the main news of the week. So, games I've been playing. Whoa, slow down. Before I can tell you about that, I got to tell you about what I've been eating, and let's make this quick, let's make this brief, let's make this as painless as possible, you guys. It's time I go on a diet, okay? Last time I got blood work done, I don't know what the fuck happened with my doctor, but I went to the doctor because we've been trying to address, like, my blood pressure, because she thinks I just have irregular blood pressure because she thinks I'm just very anxious and stressed all the time, which I think so too. And so we've been trying to get to the bottom of it, but I know the general rule of thumb in health is like, eat right, exercise, it will fix most of your problems. You know, even if you got a brain problem or whatever the hell it is, the majority of 99% of your problems in life can be solved, health wise, with just some fucking diet and exercise. So that was where we left things. And then I called my doctor to set an appointment after I got some blood work done. Doctor's office goes out of business. They cancel all appointments. They're gone. She's gone. Bye. So that was like 2 months ago, and I got to find a new doctor. That's a whole other thing. Anyway, so I'm like, in the meantime, before I do that, because I'm a typical guy and I don't like going to the doctor, and I don't like doing things, and I got to make some progress right now. I don't want to go spend money and time doing the doctor things. It's expensive and annoying. I'm just going to try to tackle my diet in the meantime. So big thing is I want to make sure my cholesterol is okay. I want to make sure like heart and all that stuff's okay. So going back to the diet. Last time I did this, it was pretty good. I lost almost 15 pounds. I was able to keep it off for a long, long time. I think I started putting some of it back on in the past 6 months or so. So I want to get back into getting that shit off, keeping it off, and just trying to fit my Hot Wheels t-shirts a little nicer, if you know what I mean. So that's really all we're at today. And I guess I want to bring this up because I just want to say, 100 people, 200 people maybe listen to the podcast sometimes. Just want to let you guys know it's important. Take care of your health, do the diet thing. So for me in this particular instance, last time it was all just calorie counting. It was eat whatever the fuck you want. As long as you're under this calorie amount, you'll lose weight. And that was great. That's the best diet I ever did because it absolutely worked for me. That is the diet logic that makes the most sense for me. But this time I'm doing it a little differently. I am trying to do the calorie counting, but I'm also trying to make it a little harder. I'm bumping up from normal difficulty to hard difficulty. So what I'm doing now is trying to cut out fat and mostly just dairy, but fat, especially from my diet, like really limiting the use of oil as much as possible and taking out dairy as much as possible, trying to do the calorie counting, but mostly just staying to like, hey man, you want sugary sweet things, eat fruit. You want something that's like substantive, eat your fucking oats. Just these kinds of things to, kind of keep me at bay, keep the cholesterol at a good level and all these things, because it's the recurring thing, man. Like if cancer or car crashes don't kill you in this country, it's going to be your heart. It's going to be a heart attack. If you have a penis and you are an American and you somehow evade cancer and you somehow evade a car crash that kills you, look out. Heart attacks coming. It's just statistically how this shit works. So I'm like, I can't really control the cancer thing because everyone's going to get cancer no matter what they do and don't do. That's inevitable. That fucking sucks. I can try to drive safe. I think I'm a pretty safe driver, knock on wood, for the most part. I'm a seatbelt guy. I'm a follow the rules guy. I'm a stay within a reasonable speed kind of guy. But diet, that's my weakness of the big three. Diet's the bad one. I like Taco Bell. I like an occasional soda pop. I'm a bad boy in these ways. So doing the diet. On Saturday, I had my last Taco Bell to celebrate before I went out and started the diet. And we're about, 4 or 5 days in now? It sucks, but, it's the usual thing. You make it through those first few days. You're constantly hungry. You're miserable. And then you realize, hey, I kind of feel better. I feel, like, lighter. I feel like not shit. So it sucks. I'm eating a lot of, like, rice, air-fried salmon, oats, just fucking ground turkey with vegetables and brown rice or whatever. It all sucks. But the thing is, I'm really grateful I did that more rudimentary diet a few years ago where it was just calorie counting, because I feel like I learned so much about food in general, just constantly obsessing over what I'm eating and what all is in everything, that now trying to up the ante and do it again this time, but with a little bit more of a dietary slant to it. It's like, I don't know, it seems a little easier and more approachable. It's less daunting this time. So I'm appreciative of that. But here we are. Let's do it. Let's lose another 15 pounds. Let's get that cholesterol in a good range. Let's see if any of this shit can really help my blood pressure. So it's not fun. It's not a new Taco Bell item. There are a couple new Mountain Dew flavors out there, by the way. I gotta say, someone actually picked me up one of them. So I did try one, but I didn't even finish drinking it. I took like 2 sips and I was like, I'm good. So I'm being a good boy. I am doing a good job being a good boy, but I don't know, man. It's not always going to be fun. What do you want me to say? No new Little Caesars pizza that has like fucking Nutella jammed into the pepperoni slices or whatever. We don't got any of that this week. So that's it for what I've been eating. Guys, I'm not trying to be preachy, but take care of yourselves. It's okay to have fun every now and then. Enjoy a nice meal. You fucking want to blow your brains out if you don't just order the steak every once in a blue moon, but that can't be every day. Come on. Think every day's your birthday? Put some pants on. Be an adult. All right, now, for what I've been playing, you guys... I've been busy this week. I have been playing games. I have been playing something in particular that I'm interested to talk about. I don't really know what my excuse is this week. I don't know. I said goodbye to Test Track at Epcot last week because it closed for a reimagining. So I spent like all Saturday at Epcot with my Kindle just writing Test Track over and over and over again to say goodbye to it. I was just reading my book in line all day, ride Test Track. Get back in line, read my book all day, ride Test Track. It was actually a really fun day, but I burned through a lot of my weekend doing stupid shit like that, like diet planning, shopping, riding Test Track at Epcot, reading. So I didn't play a whole lot of video games, but I have been in the evenings after work, in my spare time, just chilling out, watching a little bit of TV, sitting there with my, what is it called? The fucking Logitech G Cloud Pro, whatever it's called. I've been playing Gears of War Ultimate Edition. So going back to Gears of War, the E-Day announcement has me pretty hyped about Gears. And I never played the Ultimate Edition. I played the original Gears of War. But I thought, this would be a fun way just to casually, not too heavily invested, just kind of play through this in the background and re-experience something nostalgic. I gotta say, I did not realize for myself, it's been a long time since I played the first Gears of War. I played Gears 2 a couple years ago again. But it has been a long time since I played the first Gears. And I gotta say, there's something so nostalgic about this game. I mean, obviously, it's like, Jesse, you're so dumb. It's one of the most important Xbox games of all time. Of course, it's nostalgic. But, oh man, I always think of Halo 3 as this game. But Gears of War is probably just as much one of these games. And again, it's just been so long since I played the first one that I didn't really think about it. But this is one of those games that captures everything about that time and place perfectly. Like, I play this game, boom, it's like 2006, Still Searching by Census Failed just came out. I'm fucking listening to the record on repeat, going to my buddy's house, go to Walmart, grab a bunch of snacks, stay up all night at his place, split screen Gears of War co-op. It's awesome, man. It's fucking awesome. Like, just, it's one of those things also where it's like, I remember a lot of the big set piece moments of Gears 1, but I don't remember all like the little things that happen here and there. But basically every minute as I'm playing the game, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. Oh fuck yeah, I remember this. And it's just, this is textbook comfort food. This is like popcorn with M&Ms thrown in it kind of shit, where it's just, there's something really fun about this. You take a shower, you get all cozy in your PJs, you put on Gears of War Ultimate Edition, suddenly you feel your hair growing back, you feel your wrinkles going away, you feel like you're 13 again, and oh my god, you got a math test on Friday that you're not going to think about because you're playing Gears of War. Why would you? So, shout out to Gears of War Ultimate Edition. I still contend, the Coalition did a lot of updates to Gears of War with 4 and 5 that they do not get enough credit for. The original Gears of War, even in the Ultimate Edition, feels a little sluggish, feels a little clunky, not in like a way where it's like, oh, this game has aged poorly and I don't think you can play it. I don't think it's something that you can go back and enjoy. It's still aged very well and still something you could very much go back, play if you've never played the game before. It still get a lot of value out of it. But I feel like the quality of life improvements, the fine-tuning of the controls, the added weapons, the added abilities, and all the things that Gears 4 and 5 brought to us, I don't know, man, just my opinion, they're a lot more fun to play. They're better games. They are evolutions of the Gears of War formula. Doesn't mean that these old Gears games aren't great. Doesn't mean that they aren't timeless classics and we can't love them. I just personally think the Coalition has done a lot of great things for this franchise. But yeah, that's it. I'm playing Gears of War. Really excited to kind of go back and play something that is all new with this kind of aesthetic again, going back to this grittier, darker time in the Gears of War timeline. See Dom and Marcus and have another story with them. I didn't realize that I was also kind of nostalgic for these characters and kind of miss them as well, because I'm pretty cool with the new characters. I like Del and Kate and all these guys, so I'm cool with that as well. But it'll be good. It'll be good to go back and see the boys again. So shout out to Gears of War, shout out to Epic Games before Fortnite. Shout out, no, nothing against Fortnite. I'm just being a dick. Shout out to the Coalition and shout out to this week's sponsor. Did you know that every day 75% of children burn their eyeballs looking at YouTube videos with PewDiePie and or what's that one guy that does the boxing and kills people in Japan? I don't fucking know. Luke Scott. Anyway, let's take a quick break, drink some water, stand up, stretch, and come back and do some news. What do you say to that? Sounds fun. Oh boy. Okay, and we're back. Let's get into the news, starting off with some PlayStation news that is relevant to us Xbots. From VGC, Microsoft's Sea of Thieves was the most downloaded PlayStation 5 game in both the US and Europe last month. That's according to Sony, which has published monthly top 20 charts for PlayStation 5 and 4 in both regions via the PlayStation blog. While it's already had a strong foothold on rival platforms thanks to the premier bestsellers Call of Duty and Minecraft, Xbox recently announced plans to bring additional titles to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, starting with Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. Last month's PlayStation 5 download chart in Europe and the US both included 4 Microsoft-owned games in the top 20. In addition to the chart toppers, Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, and Fallout 4 all appear on both lists. Minecraft also topped the PS4 download charts in both Europe and US for the month of May. So this is important considering that a lot of this stuff happened in like April. Later in April, but April. Yeah, so these Xbox games are selling really well on PlayStation. And obviously this isn't that time of year where it's like, oh, the new Spider-Man's out, oh, the new God of War is out. So obviously you're not competing with like the heaviest hitters of the year. But this is a huge achievement that these games, especially Sea of Thieves, this game that is 6-7 years old now, just selling like crack, this fervor for these games. It goes to show that a lot of things, actually, Xbox, number one, has great games that people want to play, but people are very, very dedicated to their platforms. I feel like that's a takeaway I'm not seeing enough from this that I really want to explore, which is that, like, I don't know, like, is our perspective as console as video game fans and people who have studied the industry for so long, is our perspective so warped because everything worked a very predictable way for so long and now it doesn't? Is that causing us to be so, like, I don't know, distracted by how things have changed? Because in the Xbox OG, PlayStation 2, GameCube era, it was like, which platform has the best games? It's like, okay, that's the one I'm going with. GameCube was a great console that didn't have as many games as PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 had a DVD player built into the damn thing, which sold it by the shitloads. And Xbox was a newcomer, which was, newcomer doesn't always do the best. And garnered a decent amount of attention, but was a little later to the game and didn't really have all that much going for it outside of a few key games. Xbox 360, though, everything was different. Xbox came out first, Xbox came out at a good price point, and they had crazy good games and a lot of cool features that made people go, hey, that's pretty cool. HD, wireless controller, play online, Xbox Live, Halo 3, Gears of War. I think I'm going to go play Xbox. And Xbox 360 did well. And PlayStation fought back and got a lot of those players back over time by being like, here's Uncharted, here's Infamous, here's Resistance, here's great game after great game after great game. And PlayStation fought back and got an audience back over time. And we're used to seeing that kind of stuff happen. The NES and then Super NES were destroying the Sega Genesis, and the Genesis came back midway through. The Sega Genesis that we all remember that did so well and that was a huge success story for Sony or PlayStation, Sega, happened like midway through that console's life cycle because people came in there and identified what was wrong with the brand and started investing in great marketing and great video games that eventually sold the platform. People are like, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog, I want to play this game. And we're so used to that track of like, if you make great games, people will come to your platform. But now things are so fucked because ever since the PS4, Xbox One generation, it's been like, hey, this is your online portfolio of games. Like, you buy your games digitally, you play them digitally, you got your friends list, you got your achievements, you got your trophies, you got your metadata, you got all your shit logged into this platform. So if you bought a PS4 last generation because the general logic says go where the games are, then you're probably sticking with PlayStation because last generation it was like Xbox came out the gate, fumbled, it was too expensive, their marketing was bad, they didn't have the games PlayStation had, whatever, everyone went with PlayStation. But despite the fact that Sea of Thieves came out and it was awesome, and recently they've had games like Grounded that were awesome, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, which were awesome, it doesn't do anything for Xbox. Not really. I mean, it does stuff for them. Like, it definitely sells Xboxes and gets people on the platform engaged with new content, but it doesn't make people jump ship from PlayStation and come over to Xbox. But then you take those great games and you make them available on PlayStation, people gobble that shit right up. So something's kind of broken. And by broken, I mean something's changed. It is just so important to note that it's like, you know, like if this were the 360 generation, the OG Xbox generation or something, people would have said, hey, you know, I think I'm going to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox Series X this generation instead of a PS5. Oh, why is that, Johnny? Well, because that new Sea of Thieves game looks sick. Oh, I really want to play Gears E-Day when it comes out. But that shit just has so much less of an impact these days because now people are like, oh, I'll just play it on PC, or oh, I'll just skip that game I want to play altogether because I already have a PlayStation. My friends are here, and I already got all my Minecraft points here, and all these things. And people are just so embedded in the ecosystem that they're in that it's like the games do nothing. So it's weird because in a strange way, and I don't mean this to sound like I'm just like some Xbox fanboy that will find a way and twist the logic to make it make sense so I can continue to be a brand fanboy. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But in a way, it's like you almost see how this idea of like preserving the old way of console exclusives and keeping things on one platform and not another is kind of a dying tactic that is going to inevitably change for everyone anyway. Because what we're seeing here is Xbox can't really draw in too many new players based on putting out great games. It just doesn't seem to be really doing much for them, but they can make a shit ton of money selling their great games on other people's platforms where they already are. And maybe you can sell the hardware some other way. I don't know. It's going to be really hard because I don't know what the clear path forward is, or if there even is a clear path forward at all, to make people care about the Xbox hardware again. Because clearly there's interest in the games. And I can promise you, if you took a game like Halo Infinite or the Master Chief Collection or any of these Gears games and you put them on PlayStation, Sea of Thieves' performance on PlayStation would look minuscule by comparison. People would be gobbling that shit up. People want this stuff. Xbox has great games that people want to play. Problem is they're stuck on Xbox and people don't want to jump ship from PlayStation. So what do you do? How do you get people to buy an Xbox? How do you get people to play your games? It's like I understand more and more the conundrum that exists here. And I still do believe in my heart of hearts what I always said was that if you beat them over the head with enough shit, maybe eventually they do jump, you know? If Xbox got that 18-month window I've always been talking about that they desperately need, where they're just like, here's the Xbox Series S, here's the Xbox Series X. Right now on Game Pass, we got Avowed. In 2 months, we got Starfield DLC. Then a month after that, we got a new Fallout game. We got a new Forza game. We got a new whatever, you know, just here's the Perfect Dark game. Here's Undead Labs' new State of Decay game. And if you just have like the every 2 to 3 months, here's a great big game. Here's a great big game. And all these games are like 8 and 9 out of 10s. And they're all these games that people are like, oh man, that new game's so awesome. Oh, did you play this game? If Xbox had one of those moments, maybe the market would get inundated with enough amazing Xbox shit that people would just be like, I just gotta buy an Xbox. Maybe. I don't think we'll ever get to see that played out because I still agree with my original standpoint, which is that upper management at Xbox, at Microsoft, forced the Xbox team to capitulate to the PlayStation ecosystem a little too soon. In fact, it's almost poetic how too soon it was, because it looks like, based on how things are playing out over the next 12 months and everything, that we're on the verge of that time I've been waiting for Xbox to have, where we're going to get Avowed and Indie and Black Ops 6 and all these games back to back to back to back. And this might be one of those moments where people go, oh my God, now's the time to finally get an Xbox. Look, I mean, just look at this shit. I can't deny it. The value of Game Pass, these amazing games that are coming to it. They're only on Xbox. Doom, The Dark Ages, all this stuff, right? But all these games are coming to PlayStation, so it's a moot point, right? Or most of them are coming to PlayStation. The other ones, people are just going to say, well, I'll play it when it comes to PlayStation, because it looks like that's the route Xbox is taking inevitably. So I don't know, man. It's just crazy. Clearly, people like these games. Microsoft and Xbox have some great games on their hands. And shout out to Rare. You know, as a developer, I just want to say congrats. I mean, this game, you guys have put so much good work into it over the years. You deserve the success, and I'm happy for the team that they get to share this game with more people, and that it's you know, the player base on PlayStation is boosting things for Xbox as well. You know, if you're a fan of this game and you play on Xbox, you just got a huge jump in the player population. There's just so much more life that was just breathed into this game, and that's the whole point of making a live service game available on other platforms. But at the same time, it's one less exclusive for Xbox. So I don't know. There's a lot of ways to attack this conversation. Obviously, this is a conversation we're going to be having again and again and again, and it's going to evolve and change over time. But here it is, man. I mean, if there's any indication that Xbox was just testing the waters and that maybe they would go back to normal and not put future games on PlayStation, I mean, and any any curiosity or wonder about that should be put to rest at this point. It's clear as day. These games are all going to be put on PlayStation at some point or another, and this is probably only going to become more and more of a common occurrence. And it looks like PlayStation's starting to explore sometimes putting games on Nintendo Switch. I mean, so things are changing. Games are more expensive to make than ever before. They take longer to develop than ever before. A flop, these teams can't afford a flop like the way it used to be. I mean, they're just more devastating nowadays. So you got to make gaming more profitable. And this is the path that a lot of these publishers and these platform holders are going to come to. This is the conclusion a lot of people are going to end up at over time. And it just seems like Xbox is arriving there maybe a little prematurely, but they're definitely already come to that conclusion. So this is the beginning of a future in gaming that is very unfamiliar. And I'm just, I don't really love it all right now. We obviously don't understand it all right now, but I'm curious to keep seeing where this goes because it's unprecedented. It's crazy. It's interesting. What an interesting time to be a student of the industry, to be learning how this stuff is playing out, how developers and platform holders and publishers are handling game creation and platforms that they're available on, and who owns what, and what it means to be an Xbox game, and what it means to be, an Xbox in the first place. Like, it's all just so fucking interesting. All right, next up, this is a really cool one. So Todd Howard did an interview this past week with Mr. Matty Plays. He's a YouTuber. I love this guy. I've thrown his name around on this podcast before. He's actually the host of an Xbox podcast called the Defining Duke podcast. He's part of the Last Stand Media group of podcasts that I love so much, that is owned and company that's owned and operated by Mr. Colin Moriarty. So I absolutely adore this guy. I think this guy's great. I love his YouTube. I try not to listen to his podcast because I don't want it to influence how I operate this podcast, since he also does an Xbox podcast. But I highly recommend him if you guys are looking for a great YouTuber who covers all of gaming but has a lot of Xbox coverage. Mr. Matty Plays, he's great. Defining Duke, if you're looking for another great Xbox podcast to add to your lineup of video games podcasts, absolutely give him a try. He's fantastic. But he had the honor of having Todd Howard on his show this past week, and with that we got some nuggets of information, some stories to dive into. So we're going to dissect some of this stuff through some VGC write-ups and get into it. I haven't had the chance to listen to the interview yet. That's not true. That's a poor use of words. I have had the chance to listen to it, but I've chosen to listen to loud, shitty pop punk music in my car instead of this interview. So haven't gotten around to it yet, but I do plan on it. But here we go. Let's dive into some of these stories, some of these quotes, and see what we learned. So this is all from VGC. But Bethesda is currently hoping to release Starfield story expansion on an annual basis. That's according to director Todd Howard, who said during his interview with YouTuber Mr. Matty Plays, quote, "I would say more or less, yeah." When he was asked if Bethesda plans to release story expansions on the game on an annual basis beyond just Shattered Space. He goes, "How long that continues for is uncertain, hopefully for a very long time. But we're planning the one after this, and there will be another one. So with that information, we can assume there's at least 3 Starfield expansions. Bethesda is currently gearing up for the first of those 3, which is Shattered Space, launching later this year. In terms of scope, however, Todd Howard likens Shattered Space to the Fallout 4 Far Harbor expansion. He says, quote, "One of the things that we always liked about it from the get-go, and I don't think people realize, is that Shattered Space, the bulk of the expansion pack, once you get into the city and the planet, it takes place there," he told Mr. Matty Plays. "It allows you to build a landscape like we would traditionally do and have the city in quests, and so the story takes place there, and the landscape's kind of content-wise, we're looking at it like we did with the Fallout Far Harbor 4, or Fallout 4 Far Harbor DLC. This is a scope that works for our development in doing this kind of annual story expansion type of thing. So really excited about that. And it lets us kind of do some things the way that we would in our previous games, and give people not completely that experience, because it's still Starfield, but the new kind of alien world that you're able to explore, and it takes place there. So that's really cool. So we know that Starfield's not just getting one big expansion and fucking off, that we're going to at least attempt, the ideas for Bethesda Game Studios to attempt to do these annualized expansions for at least a little while, and we can assume that we're going to get probably 3 or so of those at least. So that will be very much in line with the way DLC played out for games like Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, although on an annualized cycle. I think Fallout 3, we got all that content within like a year or so, but again, things were crazy in the 360 days. I mean, we had we had all sorts of raunchy comedies, and people are using all kinds of G and R words that we don't use anymore. So it was a different time and place. Okay, guys, you gotta understand. But anyway, this is great stuff, at least for someone like me, because I absolutely adore Starfield, and I know that based on the cadence of releases that they do at Bethesda Game Studios, we're going into Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 next, so it's going to be quite a while before we get another Starfield game, if ever. So I will take more Starfield content where I can get it, and through these expansions, I plan on jumping back in and playing a lot more of this game. So I love this. I'm very excited to see that they're committed to doing more and more of this game, and you can assume that this is a smaller team working on DLC. They don't have the whole fucking team doing this. Obviously, the majority of the A team has probably moved on to Fallout, to Elder Scrolls 6 at this point. But good news nonetheless. Speaking of Fallout, the interview then shifts to discuss Fallout and, kind of what the future of that series is like following the success of the Amazon show. Bethesda plans to, this is from VGC, Bethesda has no plans to rush out a Fallout game to capitalize on the franchise's increased popularity. So in the interview, Todd Howard says that it's important that for the next mainline Fallout game, they take their time in order to get it right. He says, for other Fallout games in the future, obviously I can't talk about those right now, but I would say the sort of rushing through them, or we need to get some stuff out in it, is different than the work we were doing on Fallout 76. We really don't feel like we need to rush any of that. Right now, the Fallout TV show fills a certain niche in terms of a franchise and storytelling. I totally get the desire for a new mainline single-player game. And look, those things take time. I don't think it's bad for people to miss things as well. Amen, Mr. Howard. Quote, he says, we just want to get it right and make sure that everything that we're doing is in a franchise, whether it's Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield, that those become meaningful moments for everyone who loves the franchise as much as we do. Maddie later asks about the success of the Fallout TV show and if it's going to lead to remakes of the isometric turn-based games that start off the series, Fallout 1 and 2. Howard replied that as long as the original versions remain available to play, the ability for those, and available on modern hardware, it is considered more of a priority for Bethesda to focus on other things. So they're more focused on just making sure those games remain playable. He says, look, I love the question, and I agree with a lot of what you said, but my main priority is for us to make sure that those games are available. So on the PC, obviously, ensuring that they're for people to go there and play and making sure that they run okay. But as far as going beyond that, we've talked about it a bit in our priorities in terms of, hey, let's go do a dev work and make certain things work. They haven't been in those areas. So again, priority is, hey, can people load it up and play it? Howard also suggests that giving a modern upgrade to Fallout and Fallout 2, which were released in 97 and 98 respectively, would risk removing some of their personality. I actually really appreciate this attitude because I'm tired of everything getting a remake and a refresh. I feel like there's a stark difference between what Fallouts 1 and 2 are and what Fallout becomes when Bethesda takes it over and makes Fallout 3. And I love that he's like, hey, we're really focused on making sure those games remain accessible and playable for people to have that history and have that touchstone. But we're not the people, and now's not the time to go back and be like, hey, let's remake Fallout 1 from the ground up. It's like, hey, let's focus on new games. And if you're going to do that and go back and remake something, it's like maybe do the one that we did, the one that we know intimately inside and out. That's our product, and I appreciate that. And he doesn't really say that specifically, but the rumors forever have been that there's a Fallout 3 remake in the works. And so I do appreciate that idea that it's like, we'll go back and we'll remake some of our older games, but it's not really our place and our intention to go back and be like, hey, Fallout 2, let's go do a ground up remake. Not only that, but I think they also recognize it's like, as cool as it would be, the only way to do a Fallout 1 and 2 remake is to like re-envision them, like a Final Fantasy 7 remake kind of deal, where it's like, you make it look unrecognizable from the original thing. Like you take Fallout 2 and you make it a first-person, open-world RPG akin to Fallout 3 and 4. Like you could do that, but that really wouldn't be Fallout 2 at that point. It's kind of just a different game that tells the same story in a different way. So I appreciate that. I prefer this emphasis on moving forward. It's like, I'm a little tired right now and everything in the games industry being like, hey, games take forever to make. So one way we slightly expedite the process is just by remaking games over and over again instead of making new games. It's like, don't do that. Like, I'm so glad that Gears of War E-Day is a new game set in that earlier years of the Gears of War universe and not just a re-envisioning of the first game, because you could see something like that happening. Like I'm so sad about this rumor of them like remaking Combat Evolved and re-envisioning it. It's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Combat Evolved is totally accessible. It's totally playable, and it's a great game. Let's move the fuck on. What is Master Chief doing next? Let's tell a new story. So I don't know. I appreciate that respect for the older games by making sure that they remain accessible and playable, but also not wanting to go back and be like, we can put a new modern spin on this. It's like, people are just going to hate it anyway. That's all that ever happens anyway. You put it out and then people bitch and moan about a microtransaction or like a female's chest getting smaller. You remake one game with a female whose chest size goes from a D cup to a C cup, and suddenly you're the most woke company in all of the world. So, I mean, like, do you really even want to take a chance at this point in time? Like, so calm the fuck down. So, I don't know. I appreciate all that. So, Starfield's going to continue to get some great support, get more story content, more expansions. Love that. Fallout, we're not going to get 1 and 2 remade, so don't wonder about that. That 3 remake, I still believe that's probably true. But what I really love here, just like something to point out from this interview that I really appreciate, is when he's talking about like how he sees how people are eager for more Fallout because of the excitement from the TV show, but they're not working on anything that they can talk about right now. And when he says the show is filling out certain niche in terms of the franchise and storytelling, and he goes, I totally get the desire for a new mainline single player game, and those things take time to make. I don't think it's bad for people to miss things. Everything he says here is so right. I feel like people overlook this stuff all the time, because don't get me wrong, I watched the Fallout TV show and I had the same feeling. I was like, damn, I kind of want to go play Fallout right now. And like, of course it'd be awesome to be like, hey, we got a brand new Fallout game. Microsoft would love to be like, hey, we have a brand new Fallout game to coincide with this TV show. They would love that. It'd be great for sales. But if you're a creative, if you're someone like Todd Howard, who, yeah, you are at the end of the day beholden to the business side of how things work. That's how it is to run a company. You know, he's first and foremost a creative. And like, you understand that, like, man, people conflate the satisfying feeling of longing for something with there being a market misuse or a missed opportunity. And I feel like this is a problem with our, God, I'm going to sound like such a fucking old man saying this, but like our modern world where everything has to be so instant gratification. It's like, social media, and like, I need more shit. I need to consume. It's like, it is a really good thing to be like, hey, remember Fallout 3 and Fallout 4? Those games were great. I look forward to another Fallout game one day. And then a Fallout TV show comes out and it's a really good show and you go, damn, that show's awesome. Makes me really wish there was another Fallout video game for me to play. That is a good thing, especially knowing that you are inevitably going to get another Fallout game. It might not be today, it might not be next year or next year or next year, but it will happen one day. That's a great thing, because that means Fallout 3 was an amazing game where they took the time to make it what it is, and I love it for that. And then Fallout 4 did the same. And then they made a Fallout TV show later down the road, and I loved that too. And all of that high quality, well-made shit just makes me really appreciate this franchise even more. I can't wait to get more of it one day. Dude, as someone whose whole life revolves around my next Disney whatever, it's like, I gotta tell you, man, half the fun is just the hype. It's the thinking about it, it's the longing for it, it's the speculating about it. Like, that is the fun, man. It's like, if you've been playing video games for a long enough time by now, you should know that. Like, yeah, Halo Infinite was so fun to play when it first came out. I remember staying up all night the first day it came out and just being like, I'm just playing through this campaign. I just want to experience the next chapter in the Halo story. But after waiting longer than I've ever waited for another Halo game, I was so glad Halo Infinite was delayed a year and took a long time to come out and all these things, because it just meant the game was better and it was good. It was like, that was awesome that I just experienced a really fun Halo story, and it took us a while to get here because it's better off for it. Now, maybe that's not the best example because I have my other issues with Halo Infinite, but you get the idea. Like, right now, it's like, would it be nice if there was another Halo game coming out this year? Of course. But am I glad there's not, because I know 343 got stripped down to basically nothing and they're restaffing up and they're restarting and the next Halo game is far away? It's like, yeah. But I'm looking forward to the next couple of years of like, what's the next Halo game going to be? What's it going to be called? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? And we get to be excited about that. And in the meantime, we get to appreciate all the good Halo that came before it, minus the TV show and certain aspects of Halo Infinite. But you get the idea. And it's like, that's just a good thing, man. Like, you want that. You don't want to rush it, because the rush thing sucks. Anytime you get the rush project, it almost always sucks. So, I don't know. I love this whole, like, I get the excitement for the next thing, but it's probably a good thing to miss things. I don't know, man. People just, they overlook that. It's like, that's not, dude, go watch Pixar's Inside Out. Understand that the only emotions you need, it's not just happiness. It's not just joy, man. Sometimes there are other emotions you just need to embrace and feel. And it's part of a well-balanced, well-adjusted life, my guy. Stupid, idiot, moron, dumbass. Anyway, let's wrap up real quick, because now I'm making no sense because I'm too stupid to say the things that are in my head. Xbox Game Pass titles coming out for the rest of the month. We got our mid-month update for Game Pass here. So titles still coming to Game Pass. As the time you listen to this podcast, Still Wakes the Deep is now out on Cloud Console and PC, as well as My Time at Sandrock, Cloud Console and PC, as well as Keplerth. It's coming to PC on Game Pass PC June 20th. Next week, on June 25th, you get EA Sports FC 24. That's basically the latest FIFA game, but with a bad name. And then on June 26th, you get SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2 on console and PC and cloud. And then on June 27th, Robin Hood Sherwood Builders comes to cloud, console, and PC. Now, the following games are leaving at the end of the month on June 30th, so make sure you play them now before they are gone forever. That is FIFA 22, Fist Forged in the Shadow Torch, Stranded Deep, Story of the Season, Friends of Mineral Town, Sword and Fairy Together Forever, Railway Empire 2, Cricket 22. Oh my god, this has never been a better time for me to not pay attention to games coming to and leaving Game Pass, because I just, aside from Still Wakes the Deep, I don't know if I give a shit about any of these. No offense, SteamWorld Dig. I don't know, man. Teach their own. But guys, that's it for all of our big news stories this week. Let's wrap up the podcast, start to wind it down a bit with the small enough news stories. Stories important enough to make the podcast, but not important enough to warrant their own independent discussions. We're not going to opine over the following stories. But first, layoffs of the week. You didn't think people were going to get to keep their jobs, did you? Embracer Group is closing Pieces Interactive, the studio that just released a brand new Alone in the Dark reboot. In an image published on the website, the studio wrote, Pieces Interactive 2007 to 2024. Thanks for playing with us. The image was accompanied by a short history of the Sweden-based studio. Rest in peace, you guys. Fuck everything. Next up, publisher Saber Interactive has revealed A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead, featuring an original story inspired by the Paramount Pictures A Quiet Film franchise. The Road Ahead is coming to Steam, PS5, Xbox, Series S and X in 2024. First-person single-player horror adventure is being developed at Stormind Games. Stormind Games, an Italian independent studio behind survival horror franchise Remothered. The story-driven action RPG Batora Lost Haven. Cool. Next up, Fantasia Neo Dimension, a console port of the Apple Arcade game written and produced by Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi, has been announced for Nintendo Switch. Well, Jesse, isn't this an Xbox podcast? Shut the fuck up, I'm getting there. The game, which will be published by Square Enix, was announced during Nintendo's Direct this week. Fantasia Neo Dimension will be released later this year, according to an announcement trailer. But shortly after that announcement, Square Enix came out and confirmed that they also plan to release the game for Xbox Series S, X, and Steam. Wow, look at what a little patience gets you. And next up, that's not it. We still got a few more. 3 more. Calm down. VGC relays that the Xbox June console update has been rolled out as of this week. According to the platform holder, the new system update gets players greater freedom to customize their home background. Prior to the update's release, players had to choose whether they wanted dynamic or rotating art when hovering over a title. Now both options are available. There's also a new setting that allows players to change the color of their dynamic background without altering the default profile color. Updated Wi-Fi settings mean Xbox consoles can now remember up to 10 previously used networks and switch between them without re-entering passwords. How many parents' houses are you moving between? And the update enables users to manage subscriptions directly from the console too. Xbox wireless controller firmware updates have also been released. I feel like that update Wi-Fi is one of those like updates that's included for like developers. That's like for when you're moving between like offices and spaces and stuff. It has like nothing to do with the people at the end user at home. Like when I need 10 Wi-Fi networks to be remembered by my Xbox at any given time. What the hell? Anyway, next up, last gen console versions of Star Wars Jedi Survivors have been rated, suggesting EA may release them in the near future. According to VGC contributor Andrew Marmo, Respawn's sequel was recently classified for Xbox One and PS4 in Brazil. Now, we remember that last year, EA said that they wanted to bring these to last-gen consoles, so this is no surprise, but we don't have a date as to when, so it looks like we might be getting one very soon. And finally, Windows Central relays that a collaboration between Call of Duty and Fallout has come into Modern Warfare 3 and is available the day this podcast goes live. Vault Dweller-themed operator skins for classic Call of Duty characters will be available, as well as blueprints for Fallout-inspired weapons. A specialized Fallout Vault Dwellers event will also be taking place in multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone, as well as Warzone Mobile. So, if you like Fallout, you like Call of Duty, look forward to that event. If not, fuck off. That's it for the rest of the news. You guys, we made it to the end. The best section of the podcast. The only section my mom even tunes in for. The comments, the shoutouts. You know how it goes. YouTube.com, Xbox On Podcast. Click on the latest episode. If you don't, I'll syringe you. I don't fucking know what that means. And you write in and I read your comment. And no matter what you say, whether it's nice, whether it's mean, whether it's ambiguous, and I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not because it's a text and not a verbal word. I don't fucking know. I'm going to read your podcast comments because I need comments to read. Before we get into that, though, I must say, if you like schizophrenia and Xbox at the same time and you want to support this show, why don't you go to iTunes or whatever podcast service you use and leave a 5-star review. Please, for the love of God, help me get this podcast out to more mentally incapacitated people so that we can all be ill together. Please and thank you. Now on to the comments. All right, our first one comes from Mr. Sam Frito. We got 6 comments here. Sam Frito goes, "You are the megalodon of Xbox On, Jesse. I swear I won't let Jason Statham hurt you. Great work putting together 3 shows in 2 weeks. We are grateful." Thank you, Sam Frito. I hope you didn't listen to all 3 episodes because that would have been too much of me for your poor ears to handle. All right, next up we got a really good one from Mike Clark here where we talk about, this is when we kind of come back to that thing we were talking about at the top of the show, about Xbox and people aren't playing games on these consoles and what do we do in PC and how this is changing the way people interact with the console and what it means for the games, and the games aren't necessarily doing bad or unliked, it's just the platform woes. And let's get into it. All right, Mike Clark, he says, Xbox On, the only 5-star podcast, Xbox podcast that actually discusses Xbox. I don't know about that. I'm not usually a Souls-like guy, but Flintlock is a huge exception. I played the demo on PC and hated to see it end. Flintlock is a breath of fresh air. I'm super excited. I'm looking forward to checking it out when it comes out next month. Thanks for taking the time to put 2 shows together the past week. Really appreciate it. Well, sir, good for you. I'm glad you like Flintlock because I definitely overlooked it and just wrote it off. So I'm glad someone out there is giving it the time of day it deserves. But now into your real question. You said, having watched the Nintendo Direct, which was also excellent, I've been contemplating for the past 24 hours. It might be a significant concern for many, and I get that, but Xbox's showcase's excellence underscores a persistent issue for the brand. The platform is being bypassed by too many gamers. It's not an issue of money hating or Xbox tax, but for some reason a significant number of games are not being released on Xbox consoles, even though they're available on other platforms, including PC. This leads me to my question. If Game Pass is the cause of this effect on the game sales within the platform, despite the value of Game Pass and what it offers, it has undoubtedly diluted the experience of purchasing games in that ecosystem. I surmise that third-party developers, upon reviewing the sales figures, may not find value in importing their games to the platform unless they receive the bag from Game Pass, which is, of course, the chunk of money that Xbox gives you to get your game on Game Pass. Just some musings from someone who's got a bit too much time to spare, wishing you a fantastic week and eagerly anticipating the upcoming episode. Well, thank you, Mike Clark. This is a really thoughtful comment, and I'm probably going to give you a really thoughtless answer because I'm dumb, you smart. But no, I'll try here. I think this is a really important topic of discussion that we're going to see become central to what's going on with Xbox more and more, and that's why I kind of touched on it at the top. And it's I don't really know where to go from this, but we're seeing, I don't even know if cycle is really the right way to put it because it's not like a perfect cycle. It's not like this leads to this leads to this, but we're seeing all of these things happen at once where Xbox's engagement is going up and up and up. Xbox's consumer spending is going up and up and up. People are engaged with Game Pass. They are subscribed. They are getting that service, right? And then some people are buying games, and a lot of people are spending money in games. Games like Fortnite and Call of Duty Warzone. They're buying $20 skins and $13 Nicki Minaj DLC soundtracks. They're doing all of that shit. Money's being spread around. Xbox is bringing in revenue. It's all good, right? But Xbox is putting out these new games, and people are playing them in Game Pass, and then they're like not making it past an hour in the game. A game like Hellblade 2, like some ridiculous amount of data that like only like 20% of people actually beat the game or something like that, or way less than that. that only like 80% of, there's something like 80% of people make it through like the first act or something ridiculous like that. And it's like people are playing these games, like giving these games a try and then giving up really easily. And then nobody's buying this game because it's only on Xbox. And then if they put it on PlayStation, it sells really, really well. But having the game on Xbox and not putting it on PlayStation doesn't make people go and buy an Xbox. They just wait for it to come to PlayStation, or they don't play the game at all. And then we're seeing this thing where now some third-party developers are starting to not support Xbox because it's like, hey, we don't think we'll make enough money on that platform unless the game's in Game Pass. So if Xbox is willing to give us an exorbitant amount of money to get the game in Game Pass, sure, we'll put our game on Game Pass or on Xbox. But if not, we might just not put our game on there altogether. And I don't think that's exactly what happened with that Capcom Marvel game. But I do think we're seeing that a lot, especially with some smaller scale indie-style games. A lot of times it's just like, where is the money to be made on Xbox? I don't know if it's worth the risk. Let's just not do it. And we're seeing a lot of that happen. And so, like, it's not even really a Venn diagram. It's just like this hodgepodge of shit. And some of it's related, some of it isn't. And some of it's just happening at the same time. And one thing is affecting another thing, and that other thing is affecting this other thing, but the core issue is not affecting that other thing, just the reaction to that thing. It's getting kind of ridiculous and out of control here. It's really hard to get it all together and figure out exactly what's happening here. The thing is, this is the thing that has to be said at the top. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. Game Pass exists, and you cannot get rid of it. And that is something I do fundamentally believe. Even though, personally, I kind of wish Game Pass never happened and that we just got the Xbox we have today, but Game Pass doesn't exist. To see what it would have been like if Xbox kept the traditional route, acquired Activision and Bethesda and all these teams and stuff, and formed the initiative, but stayed the typical, console exclusives. Oh, we got Bethesda now, great. Doom's an exclusive. It's not coming to PlayStation. Games are $70. You got to buy them on Xbox. Because I'm really curious to see how the future of Xbox would have gone had we gone that route. I think that is the future that, with my limited current understanding of how things are going, I think that is the future I personally would have preferred. But we are in the timeline where Game Pass did happen. And again, you'd be an idiot to deny the value of it. So as a Xbox player, someone who is heavily invested in the Xbox ecosystem, of course I have Game Pass. Why wouldn't I? But I'm just very curious to see how things would be different for Xbox had they just suffered through the remainder of the Xbox One generation and through maybe the first year or two of the Xbox Series generation and not done Game Pass, but just said, wait, those games are coming. It's going to change everything. All right. That being said, I don't know, man. I think it's like on PlayStation, you have a much larger install base and more people are willing to buy games on PlayStation because they don't have some kind of Game Pass service they lean on. But at the same time, that's not fully true either because you keep seeing that narrative. But PlayStation's like various online subscription services they do now, their new tiers of PlayStation Plus, offer a lot of like day one game releases and have a lot of like, oh, this game's only a year old, now it's in this service. So they do stuff like that, but it's not to the extent of Game Pass, and it's not marketed as aggressively and in a way that is as game-changing as Game Pass is for Xbox. So it's different. I think a lot of these smaller developers and people that have a lot more risk in adding the development cost to put their game on another platform, they look at Nintendo Switch and they say that's safe, it's a huge install base. They look at PlayStation, they say that's safe, it's a huge install base. Plus, people on these platforms are conditioned to buy games and interact with games the traditional sense of discovering, purchasing, playing. And so there's that surefire built-in support for those platforms. But on Xbox, it's like Game Pass is trying to bring more games to more players, but in doing so, it's isolating more and more games onto this platform where other games don't come because people are afraid to take risks on the Xbox platform. And in a way, Game Pass is limiting player choice now. It's maximizing choice by decreasing barrier to entry and making things more affordable and cost effective for the consumer, but it's limiting things by scaring away a lot of developers and publishers and making a lot of games end up not coming to Xbox. So now we have this new conundrum, and now we're seeing this thing where maybe Capcom is not supporting Xbox as much, and we just got Square Enix back, and it's a whole thing, and it's broken, and there's no denying that at the core of it all is the fact that Game Pass is a huge game changer that is going to have a lot of unintended consequences, and we're kind of getting to a point now where we're starting to see some of those unintended consequences play out. And I agree, this is something I just think about a lot, Mike Clark. It's something I wonder about these kinds of things a lot as well, and I don't have specific answers or clear paths forward that I think are going to happen. There's no telling which way this could go. I mean, in the past year alone, there have been so many Xbox announcements, news developments, and changes in the operation that I would not have seen coming if you asked me. And it's just going to continue to be this way, I think, for a while. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, in a way, I kind of wish that Xbox just remained the way it always used to be. And that is like, oh, Gears E Day, I can't wait to buy that for $70 when it comes out. Clockwork Revolution, sure, I'll spend $70 and pre-order that, and when it comes out, I'll play it then. But instead, it's like, I don't know if this game's going to come to Xbox anymore. And this game I'll play day one on Game Pass. And that game, I'll try to fit it in, but there's just so much on Game Pass right now. I can't get to it all. And, oh, that developer stopped supporting this. And now Xbox is just putting all these games on PlayStation. So it's like, what the fuck are you doing? So it's just a whole lot. And I wonder if it's going to be messy from PlayStation in the future, you know? Like, they're putting that Lego Horizon game on Switch. And I don't think that game alone is going to destroy everything and change everything for PlayStation, but it's the start of something, no doubt. And they've already committed more and more to PC in recent years, and we're going to see them, I think, go more and more down that hole of just blatantly publishing games on PC, to the point where maybe one day there isn't even a lag in release schedule between a PlayStation version of a game and a PC version. So I don't know, man. I'm just really curious. It seems like everyone but Nintendo is, Nintendo is staying staunchly the way they always have. PlayStation is slowly exploring the inevitable avenues of how game distribution is going to work, and Xbox is like fucking jumping in without a helmet, just head first, just diving right on in. So I don't know, man. It's a really crazy time. It's really crazy. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out. But next up, thank you for Mike Clark. Next up, Mr. Malgright says, apologies with the lack of comments. I swear I've been listening, but forget to comment after the fact. So now I'll comment before I listen. No, Mr. Maug, you don't have to do anything. There's no pressure. Even though every week I pressure you guys to leave a comment and leave a 5-star review, there is no real pressure. You don't have to, you're enjoying the show, you're doing your thing. It's all good, man. But I do appreciate you writing in. This is the way I do it. First, I guilt trip you by saying, please, my podcast needs your support. Write a comment, leave a 5-star review. And then you comment, and you're like, oh, man, I'm so sorry I haven't commented. Please, here's my comment. And then I go, oh, man, don't feel pressure to comment. It's just the most important thing in the world to me. And I'll fucking kill myself if I don't get enough 5-star reviews on iTunes. Sorry. Just, Mr. Mac, don't feel bad. Don't feel the need to write in. But, wow, thanks for writing in. You know what I mean? Anyway. He said, Black Ops 6 looks so good that I'm going to try replaying all the Black Ops campaigns. That is a great idea. I thought about doing this as well, but I know inevitably I'm going to get too distracted with other games and other things going on in life. I'm not going to get around to it. Even though each Black Ops game is only like 6 hours long in campaign, roughly, it's really doable. I'd say play World at War. This is what I would say. Play World at War, then play Black Ops 1, then play Black Ops 2, then skip 3, then play Black Ops Cold War. It's 4 games. World at War, 1, 2, Cold War. That's all you gotta do. It's probably like maybe 25 hours at most of Call of Duty campaigns. Not bad. God, those are some good games. Anyway, thank you for writing in, Mr. Malk. Have a great week. And don't feel pressure to write in, but write in. All right, let's move on over to Mr. Count Scottula, who says, I'm with you on Halo Combat Evolved not needing a remake, and Chief on PlayStation being blasphemous. However, if it helps keep the game popular and supported, I can't say that I would say no to it. With Jez Corden saying things like the next Xbox will support Steam and have third-party OEMs producing Xbox variants, Xbox consoles will eventually morph into Xbox OS that runs all Windows PCs. I'm sure they'll have a little box thing called the Xbox for many years to come, which will be great. But the platform line will be fully blurred with access to PlayStation games on Steam and Nintendo emulators right on your Xbox. All I know is I'm getting old, and I need as many Halo games as I can before all the wheels come off. 343, finish your damn stories. I think this is actually a great compliment to the conversation we're having, because I think a lot of what Count Skyler is saying here kind of alludes to where a lot of us assume things are headed, and I mean, it sounds, at least with where we are right now, this sounds like it makes sense. All hyperbole aside, this sounds like more or less the inevitable future we are headed into. Which is, Xbox is going to try to open up and be as open source as possible and do as many things. And fuck, if PlayStation will let them, they'll let you play all your Ghost of Tsushima games and all your Last of Us remake variants on the same fucking box. They don't care. You know, as long as you're subscribed to Game Pass, they don't give a shit. So I get it, man. But yeah, absolutely. 343, finish your fucking stories. For the love of God. I mean, you don't. Some of these people, Steve Downs, he's not a young man. So let's figure out what the fuck's happening with Cortana and the Created and Aatrox and all these guys before, you know, we all get old and go MIA like the Spartans do. So Count Skyla, yeah, thank you for writing it. I just I wonder how I'm gonna end up being. Like give me Xbox 10 years from now. Where am I gonna be? Am I gonna be playing the little $200 thin client Xbox little thing that they throw on store shelves to satiate the fanboys, or am I gonna be just streaming Xbox from like my LG 9K TV? Ooh, it's so fucking cool. I'll be like the guy in Grandma's Boys, like swinging around in the fucking chair. I don't know. How is it gonna be? I don't want to think. My brain hurts. You guys are making me think this week. Penultimate comment. Cronky comes in talking about games that feel like they belong on specific platforms and says, I have to be honest, I'm really excited for the new RTS they showed during Summer Game Fest called Battle Aces. It's time some of the old StarCraft 2 team. It's by some of the old StarCraft 2 team, and it looks really fun. The problem is, it turns out it's from a new Tencent studio that was just formed. Am I evil if I still play it? Short answer, no. Long answer, yes. No, I mean, obviously not. Eventually, one of these Timmy, Tencent, whatever fucking games is going to get to all of us at some point or another. You got to pick your poison, man. At the end of the day, we got to hold people accountable. Make sure that we try and vote with our wallets as much as we can. Tell people like, hey, we don't want this happening. But at the end of the day, we're just consumers. We can't be held responsible for the things that our politicians and our business leaders fail to do right by us for. So I mean, if they want to sell out all of the games industry to fucking the CCP, then it's a fun StarCraft game. I mean, it's you need it. Lives are so sad, commutes are so long, work so hard. If there's a new game that's like StarCraft 2 and it makes you happy, play it, man. Go be happy. Go enjoy yourself. Fuck them little concentration camp kids. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. God. Anyway, into the real question, because that was just the kind of like little top of the morning to you comment. Halo and Gears on PlayStation is like Spyro and Metal Gear on Xbox. It just feels wrong. That being said, Gears E-Day and a Combat Evolved remake sound like a desperate attempt to get people to care about these franchises again and have a nice jumping on point for people. So I 100% believe Combat Evolved is getting a remake. This is a good point. Halo Combat Evolved remake or whatever could be very much in the same vein as Gears E-Day, where it's like we're trying to, with different approaches to each franchise, not even go back to basics, because that's kind of what Halo Infinite was trying to do in a way. We're trying to go back to the nostalgia. Hey, I remember Halo. Hey, I remember Gears. Remember the 360. Remember when you guys liked us. Remember when you guys bought our platform. Remember when you guys thought our games were awesome. Let's go back to that time period, make you feel all warm and fuzzy. The longtime Xbox fans will love it anyway. And then we'll use those games as a Trojan horse to finally get these franchises on PlayStation. Yeah. Because I agree, Halo Infinite 2 and Gears of War 6 are not the best jumping on points for the PlayStation audience, but a reimagined version of Halo Combat Evolved and a new Gears game that is set before the events of the first that lets you play as your favorite characters again, those are some pretty good jumping on points. So yeah, I agree, man. That actually might be exactly what they're thinking behind, with all the thinking behind these kinds of decisions. And it makes me fucking sick, but oh my God. I'm not trying to sound like a fanboy because I really don't think of myself that way. I have no fucking problem with you if you like PlayStation. I have no problem if you like PlayStation more than Xbox. Enjoy what makes you happy. It doesn't affect me. But I will be deeply disturbed for rational reasons that I cannot understand whatsoever, and that is why they are irrational. If and when I see Halo on PlayStation and Gears of War on PlayStation, and I'll throw a third one in there, Forza on PlayStation. So far, the most uncomfortable I felt was seeing Sea of Thieves on PlayStation. But I don't know, man. This is just... It's like when your parents get divorced and you see your mom with her first boyfriend following her divorce with your dad. It's like, Mom, I want you to be happy. Don't get me wrong. Your happiness is all that matters. But I'm not going to act like I like seeing Mom kiss Santa Claus underneath the mistletoe last night. You know? Because I know what Daddy looks like, and it ain't that guy. That's the easiest way I can put it. I'm not trying to rain on your parade, I'm just trying to tell you what looks and feels right for me. Thank you, Ryan Kroenke. Headhunting Halo has the final comment of the week. You guys, here it is. We always save the best for last. I'm ready to play some Fable Chicken Chaser. I have stopped drinking Mountain Dew, 70-something grams of sugar. I'm starting to cut a lot back on the junk, and it breaks my heart. Well, look at that. Headhunting Halo, fist bump, buddy. We're in the same, we'll do it together, man. Stay strong. If you feel like caving, just DM me. Tell me, Jesse, I'm feeling weak. I really want to have a Mountain Dew, and I'll say, bad headhunting Halo, and vice versa. You do the same for me, right? You continue on. I seen Florida was under some water the other day, streets flooded and such. Everything go okay down there? Anyone feel like Deadpool 3 is going to flop in reviews? I don't know why I have a feeling it will be the worst one. Also, PB and J sandwiches hit different at 3 a.m. Well, these are a lot of really compelling talking points you bring up. First of all, thank you for the concern, right? I appreciate that. You and my grandma both reached out to me to see how I was doing about the flooding. I don't know. That seems like it was a South Florida thing. I didn't know about that happening until people reached out to me and asked me about it. But no, here in Florida, here in Central Florida, I was just fucking running around Epcot, eating all the I was having, dude, this weekend, before I started my diet, my girlfriend and I were having bacon and eggs with Chip and Dale at Epcot on Saturday morning. It was great here in Central Florida. I feel so bad for the people in South Florida on the one hand, because I'm like, there's so many times this happens where it's like, my mom will be like, are you okay? 75 people just died in Florida. I'm like, Mom, that's Miami. That's a different continent. That's not really Florida. That's Miami. And then I'm over at Epcot or fucking Magic Kingdom, like eating churros and running around, go wee on the Dumbo ride. I'm like, fuck, man, like 3 hours away, there's like people like flooding and dying and miserable. And I'm like up here in Orlando, just like, wow, it's really hot. I wish it was a little colder. It's like, fuck you. So on the one hand, I always feel bad for those people in South Florida because I'm like, fuck, man, it's so shit. But on the other hand, I'm like, you're a fucking idiot if you decide to live in Central Florida. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's like, they keep saying the place is going to be underwater. Why the fuck do you insist on paying borderline San Francisco prices to live in this hellhole? Listen, I've never been to Miami, but I've driven to Miami a couple times for some cruises, and I gotta tell you, Miami feels kind of slimy there. Just saying. It feels like a place I don't want to be. And that's a really offensive thing to say about someone else's city when you have no fucking context for what it's like to truly be there, but I feel entitled to say it anyway. Miami? You choose to live there? You're kind of a fucking idiot. Now, do I feel bad for you because tragedy and misfortune are still sad? Of course. Thoughts go out to those who were affected by the flooding. Deadpool 3 gonna flop? The reviews? I don't know. I don't know anything about the reviews. Do I personally think it's gonna be one of the better Marvel movies? No. Do I think it's probably gonna be a really fun time? Yeah. This Deadpool 3 feels like it's gonna have Spider-Man No Way Home kind of energy, where Spider-Man No Way Home was like so exciting because it's like, oh my god, they might pull all the Spider-Man together. We might actually get to see Tobey Maguire. And it was so like, oh my god, it's Tobey Maguire. He's back as Spider-Man, right? But then like 6 months after the movie comes out, you're like, huh, that movie was like kind of just like, it wasn't that good. It was like the crossover stuff is really what did all the heavy lifting. Otherwise, the movie's like kind of meh, you know? I think this movie has potential to be that, where it's like, maybe it's really fun to watch the first time. You have a really great time watching it, which is the most important thing. But then maybe 6 months down the road, you're like, huh. I think that movie was just a lot of fun because it was funny and it was crazy to see Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds do that movie together. But the movie itself wasn't technically all like, I don't know. Who really gives a shit? I'm excited for Deadpool 3. I think it's going to be a fun time. So what I do know is it's going to make hand over fist fuck you money. And that's all Disney and Marvel give a shit about. All right. Anyway, PB&J sandwiches hit different at 3 a.m. I'm sure they fucking do, man. But I can't eat PB&J. It's like eating cake. It's like I'd rather just, if I was gonna cave and eat PB&J, I'd just fucking get a chocolate cake at that point. It's just so much sugar. But man, I know this isn't like anything profound. It's nothing you probably haven't heard before. But if you're not eating your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with a glass of milk, you're doing it wrong. So next time you're up at 3 a.m. having a PB&J headhunting Halo, because you know we're on a diet, we're cutting out the Mountain Dew. Try that glass of milk. It's probably pretty good. Anyway, headhunting Halo, as always, you are so incredibly handsome, and I love you, and you have a really striking jawline, which is one thing I've always loved about you. And everyone also thinks you're really talented in that 7th grade talent show you did where you sang Everlong by Foo Fighters. So just want to say, God loves you, Jesus loves you, I love you, and I love all of you. Thank you all for listening to the Xbox On podcast. This is the end of the show now. This is the part where I meander about until the music just kind of drowns out my voice. So until next week, be kind, eat your chicken nuggets, diet, exercise, rollerblade, skateboard, ride bikes, pretend it's 1998 again, listen to NoFX, skate on the board, freaking do all those things. Remember Mountain Dew Livewire? I do. Anyway, power your dreams. God bless.